Hello all, I'm James Doughton, and today for my 6.3 assignment I will be talking about civil liberties in a workplace. So, what should your employer be allowed to control? What should they never touch? Today we're going to explore the arguments for and against limiting civil liberties at work, the ethical tensions that they create, and also how to think about the trade-offs. And in 5 minutes, I'll explain the main areas where employers limit liberties, for example, on privacy, speech, religion, and off duty behavior, present the key arguments for both sides, and unpack the ethical dilemmas from a utilitarian perspective. And basically, civil liberties at work cover rights people usually think of as personal, privacy of communications and bodies, freedom of expression and belief, and liberty in how you live outside work. These clash in the workplace with employer interests like safety, productivity, reputation, and legal compliance. For example, monitoring emails and phones, dress codes, social media policies, drug testing, limitations on political speech, and COVID-19 safety mandates. And first of all, why do employers argue limits are necessary? And the number one reason is like safety, such as surveillance, drug testing, and health rules can reduce accidents and protect customers. And also productivity and efficiency, monitoring and rules can curb time wasting, harassment, as well as theft, and business reputation and policy as the third reason, which employers may restrict political or public speech to protect brand and workplace cohesion. And another reason is also legal compliance, because laws require background checks, records, or other health measures in some industries. Supporters may say that reasonable limits are needed to protect everyone and keep the business running. And here are some reflections on arguments against limiting civil liberties from the employee perspective. Now, on the other side, critics argue that workplace limits can be invasive, discriminatory, or chilling, such as number one reason, privacy invasion, such as constant monitoring of emails, keystrokes, or cameras can feel like constant surveillance and undermining trust. Also, free expression and restricting speech, especially about politics or social issues, can silence employees and harm democratic participation. Another reason is religious and identity freedom. Strict dress code or uniform rules may be unfairly burdening other religious expression as well as gender identity. And the last reason is scope, creed, and unequal enforcement. Policies sometimes apply discriminatorily or extend beyond reasonable bounds, affecting personal life and autonomy. Opponents say workplace rights matter since work is a big sphere of life and over controls as well as dehumanizes people. And here are some ethical dilemmas, like specific case examples, and these tensions create real life dilemmas. The first example is like an employee posts a like controversial political view outside of work and is penalized when the client complains. Is the employer protecting the brand or suppressing free speech? Another example, mandatory drug test reveals an off-duty medical marijuana that is legal in the state. Does this safety trump privacy and medical autonomy? And the last example is cameras in a common space decrease theft, but employee senses of being watched essentially. Does this collectively safety justify mass surveillance? And also, this is all from, now I'm going to be viewing things from a utilitarian perspective. So let's analyze utilitarian ethics, which asks which action produces the greatest good or the most marginal benefit. Utilitarian reasoning supports limits when they clearly increase overall well-being. And for example, surveillance that prevents violence or safety rules that prevent disease outbreaks. The upsides here: less accidents, greater customer trust, greater overall employee welfare, and supposing safe workplace. But the utilitarianism also asks what we must weigh in, such as the harm. Surveillance erodes morale. This is stressful, and it maybe even jeopardizes the well-being of an employee. Science-seeking employees may also, in short term, boost productivity, but in the long term, destroy creativity, civic engagement, as well as trust. Utilitarian approaches, therefore, should quantify net consequences, including indirect long-term harms. Options should be chosen that maximize aggregate well-being and minimize intrusions. Practically, that would favor limits that are narrowly defined, transparent, and proportionate, only what is needed with safeguards and reviews. And now for the practical guidelines and best practices. So what should employers do? 4 principal practices: proportionality, which is like limit only what's necessary; transparency, tell employees what's being monitored and why, so they both understand and you have their trust as well; and no discrimination whatsoever. And this promotes equality and as well as fairness. And make sure that you use appeals and oversight, which allow employees to speak their decisions as long as it's true to their heart. These principles strike a balance between the respective organizational needs and individual dignity.